Pretty easy question for me there.
I fish in the wind tunnel capital of the world. I'll leave my house in the woods, and then I get to Mille Lacs Lake, and you can barely open your door. So I'm almost always restricted in having a flip over shelter. There's very few days I can fish in a hub or have my customers in a hub just because it's so windy. Even though you're anchoring them down, they're great. They're awesome for early ice. They're great for small bodies of water. But for what I do day in and day out, we almost always need that shelter, that flip over style shelter. You know, there's days where we're weighting them down with LP tanks, you know, just to keep our customers in place because the wind blows so much.
Primarily flip style houses. The nice thing with a flip style house is you carry all your gear. It's kind of a self-contained unit. Hitches are built in. You can hook it up to your snowmobile, four-wheeler, so on and so forth. Hub shelters, though, are really nice as an extra. And with a family, as a guy with a family, you can fit all kinds of people in those things. They're fairly easy to set up. And if you need extra space for cheap, don't ever feel bad about having a hub house. They're great to fish out of. They're just not quite as mobile and not quite as self-contained. So given the option, usually a flip, but man, I got no problems fishing out of a hub.
You know, if I'm gonna be in one spot and I'm gonna sit there most of the day, I definitely prefer a hub style, just because I love being able to stand up. I love maybe if I'm gonna be there with a group of guys, we can all stand up and hang out and talk fishing and have the heaters going and maybe cook some food in there. So I love that hub, how it kind of brings that camaraderie a lot more together, you know. But with a group of guys and we're on Lake Erie or we are chasing, you know, a lake trout on certain lakes and looking for fish, we are using flip overs. We're drilling, we're moving, we're drilling, we're moving, we're drilling, we're moving, we're drilling, we're moving. So depending on the style of fish I'm chasing dictates what sort of shelter I want to use, because if you're going to be moving around a lot in the elements, you want to get out of the elements in the wind, and that's where that flip over comes into play, right? You're not on fish, you move. You're going to be hanging out for a day and evening, setting up a big spread of tip-ups, you know, having a party, whatever. That's where that hub is. You don't need a truck. You can throw it in your car. It's light. You can throw 3 or 4 of them in a sled and bring out there. So, you know, me, I prefer the hubs. Unless I'm hunting them down, then I like the flip overs.
That is tough. I mean, in general, flip overs. I've always been a flip over guy. I like flip overs. Doesn't mean that on panfish lakes where we like packing in, to throw a hub over your shoulder and go is so awesome to do. Being able to set up a nice big resort and have 6-7 people in there, you know, when you're right on the fish, a lot of people just, you know, catch fish left and right. They're really convenient. The other cool part is that you have Hayes' phone ringing all the time, you know.
Yeah, the goons are calling in.
The other cool part is you can take a hub house and throw it in the back of your truck, throw 2 augers, all your stuff in a sled, and you can have housing for 6 to 8 people. So I prefer tubs because I'm normally towing across the lake, right? Other people are driving out to a spot in a metro lake or wherever and backing the car truck up, setting up, and you know, I have 3 hub houses. I use them all the time. I just use my flip overs more.
Pretty easy question for me there. The hub style shacks are, let's even go even farther, let's go down to the drop down fish houses. You know, you're really going camping is what you're doing. Winter camping is a huge sport now. Summer camping has always been big in Minnesota. Well, there wasn't no campgrounds available in the wintertime, and you know, Minnesotans, South Dakotans, or the Midwestern people just figured it out. They make these fish houses and they go on these camping outings. But a lot of times people are in the summertime that are on a campground, when it comes time to go fishing, they get in their boat and they go where the fish are. They don't go fish off the dock. You know, so it's still important to have the flip over style fish house. You know, because the hub style is almost like the camper. If you're not going to move it once you get set up. And I even see guys with the bigger flip overs, and if they come walking out on the ice and the first thing they bring out of the flip over is a shovel, I know they're not a threat. Because they're going to shovel the spot off, drill some holes, flip the house off, and after they're going to spend the day. You know, it's amazing how many fish houses are sold by how good the seat is.
You know, I use a flip over most of the time just because it's easier to haul gear and move. At the same time, you know, the hubs definitely have their place. It's a price point where, for example, if you're a family just getting into ice fishing, you can, you know, have a shelter that's big enough to accommodate, you know, 3 to 5 people. And if you want more room, for example, if we're, you know, fishing over a walleye spot, for example, we can use multiple rods. You know, you can spread your lines out a lot better with a hub. You just got more room. And so that's the nice thing about it. It's a great base camp if you're pike fishing, for example, tip ups, and you just want a spot to warm up and maybe grill and, you know, just have a place to kind of base your operations out of. I mean, the hubs serve a lot of great purposes, you know, but so that's why you see both. You know, you see both out on the ice. I use both, but I probably use the flip over the most.
For personal fishing, I prefer a one-man like my hideout. I want to just take the cover off, flip it over, and be in it. I don't want to have to extend poles or any of that. If I'm in a group, the hubs are awesome. Like, I didn't realize how cool it was, like, to just sit back in a lawn chair and like fish. That's really a comfortable way to go. It's totally a different style of fishing, though. Two different styles. So I love both. Like, but personally, I'm taking a small shack alone, one man in my hideout. That's it. Just, I don't know. I like my privacy. I like to get in them and hang out and not let anybody know what's going on in there. Things are happening. You know, I mean, you don't know, right? It's very mysterious. You're like, is that guy getting them over there? I don't know.
Look at that lake.
Right. But if I leave the shack open and I'm just like, swing, you're going to be like, oh, he's totally getting them over there. So, yeah, the shack is very mysterious. I like to camera inside a lot. I camera a lot from in the shack. I'll hook it up to the snowmobile, just zip from hole to hole, and just sit down. I'll have my camera all ready. I'll just start dropping it now, watching it, and just pull it back up and throw it in and zip to the next hole. I love to camera in the shack because you see so much better in the shack. It's just so much easier to see.
I prefer the flip overs. I'm fairly aggressive on the water, so I like to be able to move quickly. And I do actually go with fairly big flip overs because I like a lot of room in my shack, so I've got plenty of room to work a fish up and still set the hook. Especially for walleye fishing, such a bony mouth. You gotta really have a pretty good sweep and a good stiff rod to move that bait in their mouth and drive it into them bones. So I like flip over. A lot of times I don't even take the time though to fold it all up. I'll just flip it over, pull my sled 50 feet over, set up again. Pull my over 50 feet, set up again. I use an electric drill. I use an ion because I think I can pull that out and drill 2 holes a lot quicker than having to start things up and worry about hot mufflers and things like that. So being portable, being mobile, I think I can get, you know, set up a lot quicker. The other hubs are great. If you got a family, you want to be out there and just have a social event and catch a few fish, and hubs are a wonderful thing. But the biggest thing with a hub is don't let that hub start making your move decisions. A lot of people, they're sitting in their hub and they know, God, the fishing ain't very good. We should move over to the top of the break, or we should move over to that humper. And you start thinking about, well, I got to collapse it all and I got to fold it up again. Let's give it another 15 minutes. And 15 minutes turns into an hour, and pretty soon you didn't move, and then now you're wishing you had moved. I've already moved with my flip up.
My shack choice is really determined upon the time of year and who I'm with. Most of the time I'm in a flip over portable shack because I'm going fishing for a relatively short period of time. Most of the time if I go, I'm going out for 4 hours or 5 hours or somewhere in that area, and I'm drilling holes and I'm moving around trying to find fish. That said, there's a day that you need hub houses, and when you want to lock down and going out with a group of people, especially if they haven't ice fished a lot, it's easier to move around in there. We can drill numbers of holes, we can talk to each other and work together and become better fishermen. And it also depends on your where you're going fishing. You know, there's certain times that you're going to set up in an area and wait for the fish to come to you, and then hubs make all the sense in the world. But for the most part, I'm a flip over guy, portable.
I like flip overs. I do, and I don't like a real big flip over. I like something that's manageable. A lot of the small 2-man houses are perfect for 1 man because I can get a bunch of gear in there and I don't feel squished. You know, so that's always been my opinion about flip over houses. I like what they would call a small 2-man, but I make it into a 1-man, and then I've got plenty of room. But it's not so heavy that it's not manageable. You know, I like a lighter house. I want something that slides really well. I think it's really important that you have a kit on the bottom of the house to make it slide good. But I still say that that's my preference in a house. The one-man house is fine, but you can't get all your gear in it. So a small two-man, make it into a one-man, and it's a lot more flexible, and I got more room. I don't feel so squished.
Hub houses, what I love about hub houses is the portability. If you have a long ride on an ATV and towing isn't a great option for you, the hub house is a great way to throw it in the back of the unit. You've got a lot of room in them. Some of the new ones like the Frabill Fortress, where you've got this massive fishing area and a small package, is a great option. But day to day, I still prefer the flip over houses. They're versatile, they're comfortable. You can carry a lot of gear, and they're pretty stable, especially if there's wind blowing.
Personally, I prefer flip overs because of the mobility that it affords me. Very seldom do my flip overs come off the back of my sled or my Ranger. And I don't fish out of vehicle as much as what a lot of people do. I will later on if the ice is just super safe, because you can stay super mobile then too, as long as the snow's not too deep. But where I live in the snow belt of Lake Superior. And I like to fish a lot of those small lakes. Quite frankly, the snow gets deep enough, it causes slushy problems, and we don't have our lakes plowed off as well as some of the lakes in Minnesota. We just get so much snow that slush develops on the surface. So often that house is on my sled. It does not take me any time to set it up. And if I'm not seeing stuff on my graph, I ice fish very similar to what I do summertime fishing. I move until I find them.
My personal preference in a house, if I'm moving around quite a bit, I'll have a flip style house with a side step entry, because, you know, even if I'm by myself, I like that. But I'm really, the hub houses are awesome because I could fit it in my back seat or behind my truck seat, and it's always nice for a guest. But if I'm going to be stationary, go up to Lake of the Woods, and you know, the walleyes are going to swim through like herds of cattle. I'm just going to put a pop-up up there, a bro hub, and Heather and I are going to sit across from each other, and we can run our mopods for Aquaview. We're going to set it up like we're going to put up a mailbox, right? But if we're going to use a flip style house, I'm going to be able to run around. Like I use a Sentinel, which is really light. You can lift it with a couple fingers to run around on the ice, drill holes and move, and I like that. And a lot of times I don't even close the house. I'm using the seat, and it's my big tackle box where I can carry all my gear. It's awesome. But there is something nice about having a big, warm, comfortable flip style house, and you could use it in all situations. But I use both almost equally, because sometimes we run around and other times we set up and catch.